Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Michelle Segar. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this wonderful evening. You're going to share your latest book, The Joy of Choice, How to Finally Achieve Lasting Change in Eating and Exercise, which is really important. We touched on it just before hitting the go button, that we're about to enter that tricky season of holidays where people get into a mess of trouble, probably fall off the exercise wagon as well, and then beat themselves up and try to do those resolution thingies where they often fall off the wagon there too. But we'd like to help them make lasting changes in this area and make it a wonderful lifestyle that is not begrudging, but exciting.
Absolutely. And, when I talk about this, I think it's really important for people to know, and I really want to say this, is that when people fall off the wagon, when they feel like failures, even though it happens again and again, it is not people's fault. And there's a really good reason. So I think we need to start out with this new lifestyle change, understanding why we haven't, most of us, some of us have, but most of us have not succeeded with sticking with healthy eating and exercise, because we've been given a formula in society that actually sets us up to fail. And that formula revolves around the idea that we have been taught to set very specific goals, make very specific plans to achieve those goals. And when something unexpected arises to our plans and we can't do what we had planned to do, our brains naturally, innately go to this all or nothing thinking. And so in that way that works is we can't do the all. So there's only one other option. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And then we quote unquote fall off the wagon. So that's why we haven't succeeded. But that's the old story of behavior change. And the new story of behavior change is based on science, not on convention. There's no science that says we should be aiming to hit a bullseye every time. That is not based in science. That's just based on what we've been taught to do over many years, because exercise and eating has come out of a medical paradigm, which is prescription-based. And of course, prescriptions are very specific. So that's why we believe that. But the good news is that the science shows us that when we can't do what we hope to do, if we do it imperfectly, if we're flexible and do something instead of nothing, then we're much more likely to stick with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can attribute to that. I wasn't always on a, let's go and lose weight type of thing, but I had become more increasingly unhappy over the past couple of years as I entered into middle-age area of my weight gain. And then when I hit insulin resistance near diabetes, I was like, that I definitely don't like that outcome. But, as a friend was saying recently of mine, who is a trainer, he said, in this time period, we've never had a human history where there's been so many foods that are so satiating and yummy and delicious and in such vast variety and access as modern history. So that's another thing that will make it hard for, I think, if you're looking to eat healthy, when you've got all this food that is tempting, that also tastes good, but not always all that healthy.
Absolutely. And so what happens, here's the greater dynamic that happens. So we're in this, whether it's a party or the grocery store, and we're like, oh my gosh, I want that. I want that. I want that. Right. So we have all this desire, but then we have this psychic voice that inner voice that says, you can't have it. You can't have it. You can't have any of it. And there's something called reactance, which is a research-based and research topic, which shows that human beings, we mere mortals, want to rebel against anything that is trying to take away our freedom. And guess what falls into that category? When we tell ourselves, you can't have that, the other part of our psyche says, screw
I want
you,
it.
screw you, I'm going to have it. And
Yeah.
so, and that's with the eating and with the exercise, it's the opposite. That same voice says, you need to exercise just like you planned. You have to sweat for 60 minutes. And your head says, screw you, I don't want to do it, or I hate it, or it's painful, whatever. And so there's this built-in rebellion dynamic, which stands on the idea that we have to do it right. Now, think about it. If we didn't have to do it right, and we could have a little of something, and we could participate in the family celebration because we want to, but we also care about respecting our dietary needs, there doesn't need to be any rebellion. And it doesn't mean that we don't overdo it a little bit, but we don't have to overdo it 100% because there's no rebellion.
Yeah. And what I'm getting from you, and this is what I got from my trainer friend as well, is he said, I have all the yummy treats during the Thanksgiving. I mean, my family's Italian, for heaven's sake, so I'm not going to go in there and not have lasagna and some pie that mom made. But the thing is, there's also one thing that's part of the human culture is that we connect through food. It's a very intimate moment, but I preset ahead of time that I'm going to share in this. And it's already preset that we're going to do this. And then we set up another family tradition, he said, where afterward we go for a long walk, so we burn some of that off because, as I was just saying as well, the whole eating process is very, it's kind of spiritual. We connect through food as humans. So I think there's all of that tied into it as well.
Well, so here's something really interesting. The new research that's looking at healthy choices and actually studying the brain through neuroscience is showing that our choices, and this isn't going to be news to you, but I want to reconnect it to the eating conversation, that our relationships with other people are so meaningful. And it really contributes, our connection with people really contributes to our choice making. And so let's deconstruct what you just said. So you're saying at the holiday, being and eating with family is like a spiritual experience. And that maps, it's very meaningful. It's, even reaches that level of spirituality. So if eating all this wonderful food is connected to that, then of course, in those situations, that is just going to beat out any overly restrictive eating plan. But we may go into that family situation thinking, I'm going to harness all of my self-control and willpower so I won't screw it up this time, right? Because it happens every year. But it's that whole, if instead of looking at it as a screw up, we said, you know what? Eating with my family is a really important, meaningful, spiritual part of my life. And why on earth would I not want to participate in this meaningful celebration? So if we did that, but we also said, I may have some new ways of eating that I'm trying to do. Tonight, maybe I'm going to press pause. It's one night. Or we say, you know what? I still do want to do that a little bit. So I'm just going to figure out how to make the perfectly imperfect choices. So I know I'm doing something to respect what I want.
Yeah.
And also letting myself connect in this way that I know and that mounds of research suggests is super important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not an all or nothing thing. For me, when I got started last year, maybe a year and a half now, I had told myself I'm cutting out all sugar and bread. And I did it for a time and I knew it wouldn't be forever, but I wanted to bring my sugar levels to a good point so I could be healthy. And now there are times, like now we're getting to the holidays, where I'm having a cookie here and there, but it's not a daily occurrence. I think the hard thing, like for me, the cookies, the cakes, whatever, until I sat down with my trainer and we looked and we mapped out and I put on paper what I'm eating. That's one thing I think a lot of people don't realize. When I put it on paper, I was like, whoa, I was having more sweets than I thought I did. Yes. And mapping it out helped me see it better. And then we could work on, okay, what are we going to cut? And we didn't do all or nothing. We started with, let's just stop with the sugar in the coffee thing, you know, all the sweeteners and stuff we did
Yes.
there. So it was a bit by bit process. And I think if you do it that way to start with, if you're going to make it a lifestyle, it doesn't become so over consuming, like you said, like you're beating yourself up. Oh my gosh, you got to do
Yes.
this. And it feels more doable.
Absolutely. I think doing little pieces at a time is very important, but that's how you plan out how you're going to do it. That also, I mean, that's why it's called the joy choice, because even when we plan it out little by little, we're still going to bump up into unexpected challenges. And so the question is, do we have the type of mindset and belief system that's going to let us adaptively make our choices? Or is our brain set up to keep knocking our head against the same all or nothing wall again and again and again? And so I think I'm hoping that people really understand that being flexible at those challenges is actually the way that research suggests, and the coaching work I've done too with people, is going to be more likely to enable you to make this a lifestyle change than if you are always trying to get it perfectly right. Because if we think, here's something also that I think is really interesting. If we step back from eating and exercise and we just think about how we parent and how we work and our relationships with our partners and spouses, never expect to do it exactly right. We give ourselves grace in all of these life areas, except eating and exercise. So there's this very organic way, natural way we live our lives, and it works. And we, typically don't throw our partners out and don't quit our jobs and don't kick our kids out of the house when they make a little mistake. But yet that's what we do to ourselves when we make a quote unquote mistake with exercise or eating. And so if we understood the wisdom of the grace by nature we have to give ourselves in these other life areas, I think it help make this idea more common, more understandable.
Now, share with me two things. One, you mentioned that to have grace and not to beat ourselves up. How much do you think our society plays a role with on TV or what's in the newspapers, magazine, whatever plays a role in us beating ourselves up because we're not perfect? And as well, how much do you see maybe getting outside help? Because for me, I don't think I could have done this without hiring that trainer, because I couldn't see without him putting this in front of me and we working together. It was really helpful having that expert for me.
Yes. Well, your first question is absolutely. Our society, not just the societal messages, especially around eating and exercise, have been incredibly rigid and narrow, and that's taught our brains how to see it and how to do it. So that absolutely has played a huge role. The other thing I want to say is working with a good person like you found, a good professional, can be incredibly helpful. And I'm working on a study right now where we're creating an eating app and writing messages. And the nutrition lead was just saying this very thing that you were saying, that people don't understand how important it is to keep track of, to record what you eat, because you don't know until you see it written down. So part of the change has to be a result of you recognizing, oh my gosh, I'm eating more of that than I understood. But again, if you come to it without judgment and just as a learning experience, it's like, oh, well, I want to change that. I don't want to do it to that extent. And when you do something small, like you did with the sugar and the coffee, that's a beautiful way to start testing the waters with a new way of being when it comes to eating.
Yeah. And then it doesn't seem like all or nothing. Like now I feel much more safer and comfortable with, oh, okay, it's been a couple months. I'm going to have a glass of wine, or I'm going to go out and have a piece of pie or whatever it is. I feel less like, oh my gosh, no, I might get diabetes tomorrow. It's like, no, it doesn't come on that quickly. But also I found the new habit of working with this trainer and building my exercise routine has made, I think I'm able to process foods better now than I was beforehand when I sat on my bum all day long. So I think that has also helped the movement and exercise and all that.
It's, when we view everything as part of this holistic self-care.
Mm.
So, we know that exercising our body does things to our cells that metabolize, the substances that are in the foods that we eat. It is, and then maybe you're sleeping better too. And of course that lends itself to less stress during the day and less emotional eating. So
Yeah.
they're really all combined. But I do want to say, as I make that kind of big statement, that I believe in my behavior change work, that it's very important for people to pick one thing to work on, not to try to get more sleep and to try to exercise regularly and to try to overhaul your diet. Because if we're talking about making changes that can stand the test of time, we have to learn the ins and outs of our daily lives, the chaotic daily lives that we live. So that's why it's better to focus on something and learn how to keep it standing and flex it throughout the unexpected challenges it faces or choice points. And then when we've got that down, then we can start working on something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that because, I think what causes a lot of people not to even try, and then they finally reach like 70 years old and said, oh, I wish I had done a healthier lifestyle so my quality of life would be better. It seems so taxing. Like I had 60 pounds to lose in order to get in a good realm of health. The doctors felt, and I was like, that seems impossible.
Yeah.
But I'm down to 50, so I'm feeling now I can see the how do you call it, the finish line.
Yes.
But when you get started, sometimes it feel, oh no, that finish line, it's like centuries away. I'll never get there. But like you said, if you take that one step in front of another, then it begins as you begin to have. And this is something my trainer said. How about you celebrate the little wins, which
Yes.
I never do. Like, oh, you lost 5 pounds. Well, let's celebrate that, because for me, I'm like, well, it's not 60 yet. So sometimes it's like giving yourself it's okay to celebrate the small wins. Oh, yeah, this week I didn't touch the sugar stuff, or whatever it might be for you. But just giving yourself that allowance to celebrate the little wins.
And it doesn't just sound good. That's what the research suggests too, believe it or not. So there's actually research that shows that when we are self-compassionate and when we do celebrate the wins, no matter how small, instead of being judgmental and thinking it should be better or we shouldn't have made that whatever, that actually better supports high quality ongoing motivation for doing it. And so that is, I think it's important that people know that the things that you are saying is supported by a very established base in science. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping anyone who's feeling demoralized, or like I had when I got started, like, oh, this is just so taxing, realize it's a journey. If we're going to make this a lifestyle, it's not going to happen overnight, but that's okay, because as you work on it bit by bit, I know I started to feel better after a month. I felt tremendously better as health wise. And really, I think that's the bottom line of why people might be losing weight or exercising or eating better. It's really because you want a good quality of life.
That's right. That's right. You hit the nail straight on the head there. People don't know that. A lot of people don't know. Some people do, but it is how these changes influence our daily feeling and functioning. That is the immediate positive experiences in our daily quality of life that drive us to keep wanting to make those changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd like us to end with something very important, because you mentioned early on in our chat here, mindset. Now, let's say someone's out there and they've tried a bunch of diet or exercise plan. They keep falling off, keep falling off. I'm guessing maybe they're doing that thing you're talking about, or beating their head off with, and really it's mindset that maybe is the first step. How do they begin to kind of shift their mindset to something more positive that helps them on this journey?
Sure. Well, that's one of the reasons that I wrote The Joy Choice. But to give you a really kind of quick finish here, I think if people know they've done that it keeps happening, that is a great indication that that they could think about the beliefs they're bringing to their choices and to what's happening when they don't make the choices. And again, they need to, I think that it would benefit them greatly to understand it's not their fault. It's not your fault. You have been taught to do this. So start with that new insight and then experiment in the new thing you're trying. But know that when you try this time, that you're going to do it in a way that lets you be flexible when you need to, just like you are in other life areas.
Wow, this is amazing, Michelle. I mean, this recalls for me, and I don't know if this will help anyone out there, but for other issues I've had in my life that I had to work through, what helped me kind of peel back the layers and see what maybe some of the negative self-talk is, or where some negative stuff in the past that just kind of in my head that I'm not even paying attention to, because I don't think we're sitting here often examining our negative thoughts. But I started writing them out and journaling my feelings and stuff on certain areas I needed to work on. And that's what helped me bring to light some of the negative stuff I need to work through. And maybe that will help some people listening in when it comes to exercise and diet type stuff.
That's a beautiful suggestion. Absolutely.
Well, Michelle Segar, I just have to thank you again. I don't want us to leave, though, without everyone finding out how they can get a very own copy of your book today, The Joy of Choice, and find out more about you. How can they do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is my name, Michelle Segar, Segar.com. And there's a page with the Joy Choice. And there's even a quiz they can take. Ooh. So if these ideas resonated with you, if they feel like they could be helpful, I hope you'll check out the book.
Awesome. Well, I know they will, and it'll give them just the tools to make a fabulous 2023 and not feel frustrated. They could do it. They can have the best life ever. Everyone, go get The Joy of Choice. And thank you, Michelle, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting today.
Thank you for having me.
You betcha.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.